What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going over Nikola stock. We're going to go over some of the good and some of the bad they have to offer. And for you guys out there who are Elon Musk fans, I also have something at the end of what Elon thinks of Nikola. So make sure you stick around for that. So for those who don't know what Nikola does, we can just take a look at their About section here. And it says that they engage in the provision of zero-emission transportation and infrastructure solutions. They basically design battery electric and hydrogen electric vehicles, electric vehicle drivetrains and vehicle components, as well as energy storage systems and hydrogen fueling station infrastructure. And they were founded in 2015, so they're relatively new, and they're headquartered in Arizona. They also currently have a market cap of $12.8 billion, which is pretty high because NIO, if you guys know NIO, they're also an electric vehicle company, but they're headquartered in China. And they also have around a $12 billion market cap, and they actually have sales. Nikola hasn't sold any vehicles yet. We'll get into their future sales and some numbers that they have locked in with different companies, but let's first take a look at their stock price. They just IPO'd in June, on June 3rd, so that's when they became public to trade. And you can see shortly after they spiked up, and it shows here on Robinhood that they spiked at $83, but they actually spiked over $90, I believe. And then after they spiked, they kind of tapered off here a little bit. And then you can see just today that they dropped yesterday from around $39 and they dropped all the way to $33. And then they bounced back up because the founder of the company had an interview on why they dropped. And then they've kind of evened out today. But let's take a look at what he had to say in that interview. So here's the article on CNBC, and it says Nikola founder attempts to restore confidence and curb investor expectations as the share plunges. Now if we scroll down, we can see exactly what he said here. After the stock plunged just this morning, dropped by 10% after its first quarterly earnings report. And the founder, Trevor Milton, he said, "We're a pre-revenue company. We told everyone from the beginning of the year, look, give us until the end of this year." I'm not really sure what he meant by that, if he means that they're going to be doing big numbers and big revenue by the end of the year, but he also said that people want us to be Tesla in our first 3-week debut. That's not going to happen. I think that's really true. People want them to be Tesla when they've only been around for a few years and they only went public just in June. So you kind of have to give them some time to build up some history and some background. And here on this same article it says shares of the company which planned to make battery electric and hydrogen powered trucks fell by almost 16% in pre-market trading. They recovered after Milton's interview and were down about 10% in late morning trading. And they're still currently down a little bit, but they've bounced back slightly after the interview with Milton. In this interview, Milton also confirmed the company's plans to make hydrogen fuel semi-trucks next year, and they have a manufacturing partnership with a big OEM or automaker for its all-electric Badger pickup truck. He also went on to say the next 4 months are going to be the greatest 4 months in Nikola's history ever. Now I don't know exactly what that entails because they haven't sold any vehicles yet. They're currently in the production stages of making their semis and their Badger truck. So I'm not sure how the next 4 months are going to be the greatest ever. I guess it's just a waiting game to see exactly how it plays out over the next 4 months or so. So even though Milton said in the interview that the next 4 months will be the greatest ever, currently Nikola hasn't made any money and they're down a lot of money. We can just look at this article and it says that they hit a $34 billion market cap. This was back in June when they spiked in price, and they've kind of tapered down now to around $12 billion. But if we scroll down here, we can see they lost $188.5 million since starting 5 years ago. They lost about $17 million in 2017, and then in 2018 they lost about $63 million. And then just last year in 2019 they lost $90 million. Now a company can't keep running forever and just keep losing money like this. I mean, they're already at $500 million that they've lost just in 5 years. Not everything's looking so bad though for Nikola because they've already secured truck orders worth $10 billion. And one of the companies that lead the way has a pre-order of 800 trucks, 800 of these semis, and that's Anheuser-Busch. And not only have they secured $10 billion from different companies, but they also plan on their sales jumping from $150 million in 2021 to $3.2 billion by 2024. And in 2024, they expect to sell or release 7,000 battery-powered units and 5,000 hydrogen fuel cell trucks. If they could actually do this, this would be pretty huge for Nikola, because then they would actually have their feet wet and they'd be on the ground and running. and they wouldn't just be a speculative company anymore. A lot of people thought this was just going to be a hype stock and very speculative, and that they wouldn't actually follow through and make any vehicles, but it looks here like they have pre-orders and they're actually planning to make semi-trucks and that pickup truck in the future, the Badger. So for anybody who is unsure of how hydrogen vehicles work, they basically use hydrogen gas, which powers an electric motor. But unlike a normal conventional vehicle that runs on gas or diesel, they are powered by this hydrogen as well as oxygen, and it produces electricity. So technically they are an EV vehicle or an electric vehicle, but they differ from electric vehicles by their range and their refueling process, because you actually go to somewhat of a gas station. It's a hydrogen station, but you fill up there just like you would with a gas car. And it takes a similar time as it would to fill up with a normal gas or diesel vehicle. Now, I'm not an engineer and I don't work on cars like the people who are making these, so I can't tell you exactly how they work, but this is kind of just a quick little rundown of the basics and how it works, just so you kind of get a better idea. So with hydrogen, you might wonder how they compare for the price, like for refueling and things like that. So if we look here, it shows that hydrogen is between $13 and $16 per kilogram. And 1 kilogram of hydrogen contains roughly the same energy density as 1 gallon of gas. But it also says that you need half the amount of hydrogen to go twice as far. So if we did the math on that, $13 to $16 for 1 kilogram, but you only need half to go twice as far, you would need $6 to $8 for a half a kilogram. And that would give you about 50 miles or so if you base that off of an average car going about 25 miles per gallon. So for 25 miles, it would cost between $3 and $4, which is approximately the equivalent to gas in California. I think their prices are probably between $3 and $4. So it's really not far off in price if this is correct, and you can go twice as far with half the amount. And if the prices currently are about equal, well, it says here that there are plans to bring hydrogen down to less than $4 per kilogram. So you could almost divide that total price by 4. So it would only cost you about $1 or so per gallon equivalent, or about $1 per 25 miles or so. This also says that hydrogen would be as low as $4 per kilogram by 2020, and it currently is 2020. This article was created in 2016, but even currently, there's not a lot of information about exactly how much hydrogen costs. I suppose unless you live in California where there are hydrogen stations, you wouldn't really know, because a lot of the estimates online also are saying by the future, by like 2025, that prices will drop to a respectable level. But even so, currently prices are similar to gas prices, maybe slightly higher for the equivalent that you're going in miles. But if prices drop down, these hydrogen electric vehicles will definitely be something that a lot of people will be pursuing and moving away from a conventional gas or diesel vehicle. Now, if we scroll down and look at the tank size of a hydrogen vehicle, it says that they hold about 5 kilograms of compressed hydrogen with a range of about 300 miles or so. And Nikola actually has given estimates a bit higher than this for some of their vehicles as well as their semis. Their semis actually go at a range around a normal diesel semi, and some are even higher than normal diesel trucks. And keep in mind, this article is also from 2016, so it's slightly on the older side, and things have improved since then. But it's just kind of giving an estimate or a general idea of how hydrogen vehicles work and what possibilities they have. And there's also stations currently in California as well as Connecticut, I think, with plans to bring more stations to 8 different states across the US. And if Nikola ends up going through and creating a lot of these hydrogen trucks, the semis and the Badger, these semi drivers will need places to fill up. And if they have a specific route that they're driving across the US, they're going to need these hydrogen fueling stations every few hundred miles or so, or every 1,000 miles, however big their tank size is. And so Nikola might kind of have to be the task force and be in charge of creating these stations. And if they're able to do that, that kind of also gives them more leverage in the future and greater revenue possibilities if they own all of these fueling stations. But that's just kind of speculation. You can't really say for sure whether they would be the ones to do that or not, or whether more hydrogen stations will pop up from other companies. But that's something to keep in mind, that these hydrogen vehicles, they need somewhere to fill up. They're not like an electric vehicle. you can't just charge them anywhere there's electricity. Although Nikola also has been mentioning how their Badger truck would go 600 miles, and this would be with 300 miles of range from the battery as well as 300 from the hydrogen. So they might have some kind of a dual power source. They might be able to plug in the vehicles and have almost like a secondary tank which would use the battery as power instead of breaking down hydrogen and using that to run the engine through electricity. Now, for anybody who's an Elon Musk fan, in this article it says that Elon Musk mocks Nikola Motors over their hydrogen fuel cells, and he calls them dumb. Now, Elon Musk, he's a very smart guy. He runs Tesla as well as SpaceX, and he also thinks how electric vehicles are kind of the future, and they're the most efficient vehicle on the road today. And the reason he thinks hydrogen fuel cells are dumb is because a hydrogen vehicle has twice the efficiency of a normal conventional gas vehicle, but they're not nearly as efficient as an all-electric vehicle. And Elon wasn't the only person to hate hydrogen vehicles and hydrogen-powered stuff, because just looking at these other stocks like Plug Power, over the last 5 or 6 years leading up to about 2014, they dropped dramatically in price. Recently they kind of rallied back, but Plug Power, Ballard Power, and Bloom Energy, they all dropped in price and they haven't really recovered exactly to where they used to be. But then Nikola pops up and they're all this hype, and people are wondering like why everybody loves hydrogen all of a sudden, and there's not really a great explanation for it. Maybe just because they're producing vehicles unlike these other past hydrogen companies. But you know how I mentioned that Elon kind of hates on Nikola and calls them dumb? I think maybe it's because they kind of copied him with Tesla, because both Nikola and Tesla were named after the same guy, Nikola Tesla. So Elon has Tesla, which is very successful, and then just a few years ago Nikola comes out and they name their company, which is a very similar company. They produce electric vehicles as well, and they name their company the first name of the scientist, Nikola Tesla. So Elon Musk might just be a little bit mad that they copied him with the exact same scientist name. I mean, I know I would be kind of mad if some other company just piggybacked off me after creating a vastly successful company. And not only did they copy the name, but they basically created the same type of company. So that's just something to keep in mind. Something that you might not have known is that they both name their companies after the same scientist. So the last thing I want to take a look at is just the volume of Nikola since they IPO'd back in June. So they kind of spiked here, like we mentioned, spiked around $90 or so. Volume really picked up around that time, but the volume hasn't really dipped much. If anything, it's kind of steadily increased. There's currently over 200,000 users holding Nikola shares, even though the price has dropped dramatically since they spiked. And they're currently number 40 on the most popular stocks on Robinhood, right behind Starbucks. So that's about all I got for you guys today on Nikola stock. There's really not too much to go over because there's not much about the company yet, because they have yet to produce any vehicles. They have pre-orders, but those pre-orders could be canceled and the companies might not follow through. I mean, they have what seems like a bright future ahead, but there's really not much to talk about yet because there's no numbers and no revenue really. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys own any shares of Nikola? If so, let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know if you're planning on buying more in the future. I'd love to hear about it. And if you guys have any suggestions for future videos or companies you want me to cover, don't hesitate to leave a comment and let me know. I'll cover any companies you guys want me to. If I get enough comments, or if a comment has enough likes on it, I'll definitely make sure to cover that company. Last thing, if you guys haven't signed up for Webull or Robinhood, use the links in the description and you'll get 2 free stocks from Webull worth up to $1,400, as well as a free stock from Robinhood if you haven't signed up already. Also, make sure you guys smash the like button, hit the subscribe and notification bell. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you back here in the next one. Bye.